moral obligation that comes from a communitarian responsibility to people and groups that form your identity. I mean, even, like, I'll give the example that, you know, there are a lot of things about our government right now that I'm not in favor of, but part of my identity is that America values a free society where we can object to certain things, and I think that's an expression of patriotism as well. And you know, I go back to the parent example, or even at Harvard, I think, you know, I owe more to my roommates because they make up my identity than I do to the Harvard community as a whole, and I think that applies to our country because there are certain things that growing up here, yes, we can't choose it, we can't choose our parents, things like that, but it makes up part of our identity.
Okay, who would like to take that on? Ike?
Yeah, about the obligation to others simply by virtue of being in being influenced by them. I'm a German citizen, and if I had been born 80 years earlier, then I would have been a citizen of Nazi Germany. And for some reason, I just don't think that I would have to feel obligated towards Germany because I had benefited from actions of Nazis.
I mean, I guess my response to that would be you have hundreds of thousands of protesters in the United States right now who hold up signs that say peace is patriotic. And I'm sure there are people in this room who don't agree with that. I personally do. And I would say that they're strongly objecting to basically everything the Bush administration is doing right now, but they still consider themselves loving their country because they're furthering the cause of what they see as best for the country. And I tend to agree with that as a patriotic movement.
Well, but how's that then? How do you still favor your country? How's that still patriotic? I mean, isn't that more a sentimental attachment? Where's the obligation there?
Yeah, not to bring this back to John Locke, but I'd like to bring this back to John Locke. So, I mean, in his conception of you know, when people join society, there's still some outlet. Like if you're not satisfied with your society, you know, you do have a means of exit. Even though we had a lot of concerns about how you're born in and it's not very feasible, he still provides that option. If we want to say that your obligation to society is a moral one, that means that prior to knowing exactly what that society is going to be like or what your position is going to be in that society, that means that you have a binding obligation to like a completely unknown body that could be, you know, completely foreign to all of your personal beliefs or, you know, what you would hold to be
Do you
correct.
think that that kind of communal obligation or patriotism means writing the community a blank moral check?
Basically, yeah. Like, I think that we can, you know, I think it's reasonable to say that as you grow and as you develop within that community, that you acquire some type of obligation based on reciprocity. But to say that you have a moral obligation, I think, requires a stronger justification.
Good. Who else? Anyone else like to address that?
I guess we could say that you could argue that you're morally obliged to society by the fact that there is this reciprocity. I think it's the idea that, you know, we participate in society, we pay our taxes, we vote. This is why we could say that we owe something to society. But beyond that, I don't think there's anything inherent in the fact that we are members of the society itself that we owe it anything. I think it's insofar as the society gives us something, gives us protection, safety, security, then we owe the society something, but nothing beyond what we give the society.
Who wants to take that on? Rahul?
I don't think we give the community a blank moral check in that sense. I think we only give it a blank moral check when we abdicate our sense of civic responsibility and when we say that the debate doesn't matter because patriotism is a vice. I think that patriotism is important because it gives us a sense of community, a sense of common civic virtue that we can engage in the issues. Even if you don't agree with the way the government is acting, you can still love your country and hate the way it's acting. And I think because out of that love of country, you can debate with other people and have respect for their views, but still engage in a debate. If you just say that, you know, patriotism is a vice, you drop out of that debate and you cede the ground to people who are more fundamentalist, who have a stronger view, and who may coerce the community. Instead, we should engage the other members of the community on that same moral ground.
Well, now what we hear from AJ and Rahul is a very pluralistic, argumentative, critically minded patriotism, whereas what we hear from Ike and the critics of patriotism here is the worry that to take patriotic obligation in a communal way, seriously, involves a kind of loyalty that doesn't let us just pick and choose among the beliefs or actions or practices of our country. What's left of loyalty if all we're talking about, AJ and Rahul, if all